Hello, people, and today I'm talking about a extremely obscure movie that I don't think, well, possibly someone's talked about it, but mostly no one's talked about it from what I can tell. The film's called SuperBob, what is not a great title in my opinion, but it does make sense why they choose that. The film focuses on a guy called Bob who gets hit by a meteorite and becomes a superhero with the help of the government training him. Now, that sounds simple, but there is a lot of stuff what is actually going on in the film. Also, the film's sort of a comedy. Also, you could say a parody of superheroes in general, but I don't really feel like it is a parody. It's more is just a superhero film, but more slice of life mixed in with some little comedic bits. Now, I'm going to try my best to not spoil too much, mostly because I feel like some people should probably try and check this movie out, because there's definitely stuff in it what I think is really good and interesting, but there's definitely problems with it. One big problem is that it does have, I think, quite a small budget. At least it has a very cheap kind of look to it that doesn't exactly help the film, but also I don't mind it exactly because it gives it this slice of life feel. What I like is the whole point of this film is that it's sort of a documentary, kinda not, because that goes away eventually, where it focuses on Bob, who's a superhero, but the main point of the documentary is to show his more human side and show that he's like everyone else. And the film does a good job at doing that.
Can I call you back in a bit, please? Thank you.
Hello, I'm John. We're making the film today.
Is that today?
Yeah, it's today. Teresa said you knew about it? Oh, no, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob. Bob, good morning.
Just your normal voice is fine here, Bob. No, Bob.
Good morning.
Good
morning. Hey.
Bob, just wait.
SuperBob, or just Bob, what I'll probably be calling him for the most part, is played by Brett Goldstein. I'm probably saying that wrong, but funnily enough, he went on to go play Hercules in Thor: Love and Thunder, a superhero movie. He does a good job at portraying the character, showing his awkwardness, even though he's this super powered individual. They definitely make sure that you know he is just a person, technically a very awkward person who sometimes makes a lot of mistakes, and he does a good job. He plays the character well, and you get an idea of how Bob acts. It's interesting to see someone who was just an everyday person get superpowers. Also, they kinda explain how it works, because with SuperBob, his identity is public, and he's working with the British government to help people. He doesn't refer to himself as a superhero, as he does see it as a job. He has days off, like everyone else.
I ask you your name and your job, please.
You may. My name is Bob Kenner, and I'm a civil servant.
You don't say superhero.
We don't use that word. I mean, you can use that word, but it's just a job, and I have shifts just like anyone else.
So he sees it as a job more than being a superhero. One of the big main focuses of this film is that he's lonely. He doesn't have really anyone and hasn't been on a date for 6 years, as he's already been focusing on being a superhero and just dealing with that in general. And the film focuses on him trying to find someone for a while, but it does start to move on to a different subject, what I do find even more interesting. I do think seeing Bob try and find someone and relate with someone is fun, but there's an aspect of this film what I also really enjoy and think is interesting, and that's the fact that Bob is perceived as a weapon by multiple governments and how he handles that. Obviously Bob was trained by the British government and they sorta own him. They're the ones who control his job. They say when he has to work and when he isn't meant to. Something what he isn't sure about in general. Mostly because they treat him as if he is this marketable figure and that he's more of a thing than a person. Multiple governments also do this, such as the American government plays a big part in this, as they originally wanted to try and take Bob as their own, as they didn't like that the British government had a super-powered being. But the whole thing with that is they didn't get him, so now they're worried that they'll try and use Bob to cause wars or something, as they see him as a weapon. So the British government's dealing with the fact that they have to show America they're trustworthy and show that Bob is not a threat, while Bob just wants to live his life as himself. It's just interesting to see him tackling both of those aspects. Him being himself and wanting to help people still, but also wanting to live his life, while also dealing with the fact people see him as a weapon. Even in the movie they explain that he has very strict rules that he has to follow when saving people. If he wants to save someone afterwards, he has to make them sign a form, basically as a way to make sure, as a way to be like, he did that, while also making sure the public thinks he's good, because if they don't, they'll complain at the British government.
This is to set up a temporary no-fly zone. Make sure that nothing bumps into me up there, which is actually quite important because there's a lot less room up there than you might think.
Like, I'm really glad to be alive. I'm really glad to have been saved, but he's just a bear. I mean, sign your own fucking form.
This is a combo insurance.
Eyewitnesses report that Kenneth tried to get the baby to sign a form. He then panicked and quickly flew off.
Temporary jurisdiction proposal.
We like order.
In S12658P.
I've got to fill out a form.
Of course you had to fill out a form. How is there going to be a record of it?
But the thing is, Bob couldn't care about any of that. He wants to help people and he likes doing it, but he doesn't like the aspect of it being very strict, and he wants to also try and live his life. He wants more of a break from everything. Visually the film's okay, it's somewhat basic. Sometimes it will be quite like a documentary, but eventually that slowly disappears. what I am a bit annoyed about is I quite like found footage stuff and mockumentaries, but also I'm kind of fine with it because the idea and story's interesting enough. That goes with comedy also. The film's a comedy, but also I feel like some of its comedy doesn't work, some of it does. But also I think the whole story around the idea is interesting enough where the comedy shouldn't be the only focus. CGI wise, because there is technically CGI for when he's flying and stuff, isn't great. It works fine, but you can tell it's not real most of the time. It doesn't have this realness to it. But I can kind of, with me, CGI, I can deal with bad CGI if it means, if the story's good. But I know some people are very like, oh, the CGI has to be good or I'm not going to get involved because it brings me out the movie. Was understandable, but with this film CGI isn't great. But also, they try their best to do a good amount of showing his powers while also not doing it too much, so they're not using not CGI every second. Once again, I believe this film didn't have the biggest of budgets. Though I could be wrong, it might had a very good budget. But yeah, if I was to rate this film, it would be a bit difficult. Because I don't think it's perfect. I think if it had a higher budget and was a bit more, I don't know, some comedy I think could be better, I guess. I'd find it better, but it does have problems, but I do also think the film is actually pretty decent. I would make it 3 stars out of 5, but also I would maybe possibly give it 4 stars out of 5, just because I do enjoy it, but I feel like there's issues and stuff. But yeah, those are my 2 ratings. I'll give you 2. I do suggest you see the movie. It's not that long actually, quite short. Was fine. I don't think it needed to be super long. So I would suggest watching it, but also I think it's probably quite difficult to find. I watched it on Prime, but even then I don't know how easy it is to find. But yeah, I suggest checking it out if the concept seems interesting. Go check it out. You might hate it, you might enjoy it. Either way is fine. But yeah, thanks for watching this, me rambling on. If you liked this video, like it. If you didn't like it, or if you just don't like my videos in general, dislike it. If you want to see more from my channel, I suggest subscribing. Even comment if you want. If you've seen this movie, comment your thoughts on it, or if if you haven't seen it, come back and comment. Or don't. You might not want to. Once again, thank you for watching. That's all, and goodbye.
It's got you distraught, it's negative attention at best. But call it nothing, maybe something, a little bit, maybe something to it's all about ascension, I guess. Don't put me to rest.
SuperBob. The name's a bit wank. It's arrogant in a way, but looks like it's sticking.